Are your meat choices secretly sabotaging your blood sugar levels? Many seniors are unaware of how certain meat habits may worsen their diabetes control. In this video, uncover the top 5 meat practices to avoid, empowering you to make healthier choices for balanced blood sugar. Top 5 worst meat habits that worsen blood sugar. Number 1, consuming excessive red meat. All right, kicking things off with our first habit, eating too much red meat. There's a growing amount of research out there that really shines a light on a worrying connection between eating a lot of red meat and the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So, if you're working towards better blood sugar control, it's super important to understand this link. It's not simply a question of if you eat red meat, but more about how much and how often it's on your plate. Making well-informed choices here can truly make a big difference in your health journey, especially if you're dealing with diabetes or pre-diabetes. Indeed, extensive studies have really sounded the alarm on this. For instance, a major Harvard School of Public Health study, which kept track of over 216,000 participants, uncovered a pretty startling statistic. It found that individuals who ate the most red meat faced a 62% greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes when compared to those who ate the least. This powerful evidence really highlights why we need to be careful about how much red meat we're consuming. The same study went even further, detailing the incremental risks. It found that for every additional daily serving of processed red meat, think things like bacon or hot dogs, there was a staggering 46% increase in the risk of type 2 diabetes. And even unprocessed red meat, like beef or pork, wasn't off the hook. Each extra daily serving was linked to a 24% greater risk. These numbers paint a very clear picture of how increasing your red meat consumption can progressively bump up your risk. Now, one of the main reasons red meat can have this negative impact on blood sugar is its high saturated fat content. These fats can actually contribute to insulin resistance, which is a central issue in type 2 diabetes. You see, when your cells become resistant to insulin, it's harder for glucose to get into them to be used for energy, and that leads to higher blood sugar levels. This physiological response makes managing your glucose levels a much more challenging task. Furthermore, those saturated fats that are so common in red meat are also known to promote inflammation throughout the body. Chronic inflammation is another key player that can interfere with insulin sensitivity and make blood sugar control worse. For anyone with diabetes, minimizing things that trigger inflammation is really crucial, and moderating red meat intake is a pretty significant step in that direction. This inflammation can create a bit of a vicious cycle, making diabetes management an uphill battle if dietary habits aren't adjusted. So, when you put it all together, the cumulative effect of high saturated fat, leading to both insulin resistance and chronic inflammation, means that eating too much red meat can seriously undermine your efforts to keep your blood sugar stable. Recognizing this habit as a harmful one is really the first step towards adopting an eating pattern that's more friendly for diabetes management. Number 2, choosing processed meats over fresh options. All right, moving on to our second habit to watch out for: choosing processed meats over fresh options. When you're navigating meat choices to better manage your blood sugar, it's a really critical strategy to steer clear of those processed varieties and instead opt for fresh ones. Processed meats, and we're talking about favorites like sausages, deli slices, bacon, and hot dogs, go through treatments such as curing, smoking, or salting. Plus, they often contain additives that can be especially problematic if you have diabetes. These aren't just empty calories. They come with specific risks. A big concern with processed meats is their content of nitrates, nitrites, and other preservatives. Research actually suggests that these substances can be harmful to the pancreatic beta cells. Those are the cells responsible for producing insulin. If these vital cells get damaged, it can impair your body's ability to secrete enough insulin, which directly impacts your blood sugar regulation and could potentially worsen diabetes control over time. These preservatives and additives found in processed meats are also thought to promote what's called oxidative stress in the body. Oxidative stress happens when there's an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants, and that leads to cellular damage. For people with diabetes, who might already be dealing with higher levels of oxidative stress, adding to this burden through diet can actually speed up complications. Along with oxidative stress, the components in processed meats can contribute to chronic inflammation. As we've touched on before, inflammation is a known enemy of good blood sugar control because it can make insulin resistance worse. So, the combined effects of oxidative stress and inflammation create an internal environment that's less than ideal for managing diabetes effectively. Common examples of processed meats that you'd want to limit or even avoid include things like bacon, sausages, hot dogs, salami, pepperoni, and a lot of those packaged deli meats. It's always a good idea to read labels carefully, but generally speaking, if a meat has a long shelf life or has been significantly changed from its fresh state, it probably falls into this category. So, what's the alternative? Well, you should opt for fresh, unprocessed options. Choose fresh cuts of chicken, turkey, fish, or lean beef and pork that you prepare yourself at home. This way, you're in control of the ingredients and can avoid those harmful preservatives and the excessive sodium often found in their processed counterparts. Making this switch can really be a game changer for your pancreatic health and your overall blood sugar stability. Number 3, high-temperature cooking methods. Next up, let's talk about number 3, high-temperature cooking methods. The way you cook your meat can be just as important as the type of meat you choose, especially when you're trying to manage your blood sugar levels. Certain high-temperature cooking methods, like grilling, broiling, frying, and barbecuing, can actually lead to the formation of potentially harmful compounds in the meat. These compounds might negatively affect your health and your diabetes management. You see, when meats, particularly red and processed meats, are cooked at high temperatures for long periods, compounds known as heterocyclic amines, or HCAs, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs, can form. These substances pop up when the muscle proteins and fats in meat react to intense heat. So, while a charred steak or some crispy fried chicken might sound appealing, they could be introducing these unwelcome elements into your system. Furthermore, cooking with high heat significantly contributes to the formation of something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. AGEs are harmful compounds that form when proteins or fats combine with sugars in your bloodstream. This process can be sped up by eating foods that are high in AGEs, such as overcooked meats. They're actually implicated in the development and progression of many diabetes-related complications. These compounds, especially AGEs, are known to promote inflammation throughout the body. For individuals with diabetes, whose bodies might already be grappling with inflammatory processes, an increased intake of AGEs from meats cooked at high heat can further fuel this inflammation. This can potentially worsen insulin sensitivity and make blood sugar control more difficult. Beyond just inflammation, there's a direct link between elevated age levels and increased insulin resistance. When your body's cells become more resistant to insulin's effects, glucose can't be efficiently transported into cells for energy, and that leads to elevated blood sugar levels. Therefore, regularly consuming meats cooked at high temperatures can inadvertently sabotage your efforts to maintain glucose stability. So, what can you do to minimize the formation of these harmful compounds? Well, consider adopting gentler cooking methods. Techniques like baking, roasting at lower temperatures, poaching, stewing, steaming, or even stir-frying with minimal oil are much better choices. These methods not only reduce the creation of AGEs, HCAs, and PAHs, but can also help preserve the nutritional value of the meat. This, in turn, supports your overall health and your diabetes management goals. Number 4, pairing meat with high glycemic side dishes. All right, let's move on to the fourth habit, pairing meat with high glycemic side dishes. Now, lean meat itself, since it's primarily protein and fat, generally has a less immediate and direct impact on blood sugar levels compared to carbohydrates. However, the company it keeps on your plate is critically important. The side dishes you choose to go with your meat can drastically change how a meal affects your glucose readings, potentially turning an otherwise reasonable protein source into a blood sugar disaster. It's a common misconception that as long as the meat portion is controlled, the rest of the meal doesn't matter as much for blood sugar. But the truth is, while protein and fat don't cause sharp spikes like refined carbs do, they do influence how quickly your body digests the entire meal. And the carbohydrate content of your sides will still be the primary driver of your post-meal blood glucose. The real trouble starts when meat is consistently paired with side dishes that are high in refined carbohydrates or have a high glycemic index. These types of carbohydrates are digested and absorbed very rapidly, leading to a quick and often significant surge in blood sugar levels. This rapid rise can be particularly challenging for individuals with diabetes to manage. Some common culprits to watch out for include sides like fluffy white rice, mashed or fried potatoes, white bread rolls, pasta made from refined flour, and those sugary sauces or glazes that are often served with meat. Even options that might seem healthy, like corn or sweet peas, if eaten in large quantities alongside other carbs, can contribute to an undesirable glucose spike when they're part of a meat-centric meal. So, what's the key to better blood sugar control here? It's to pair your meat with low-glycemic, high-fiber side dishes. Try to focus on incorporating plenty of non-starchy vegetables, such as broccoli, spinach, green beans, asparagus, cauliflower, and leafy salads. These are packed with nutrients and fiber, which help slow down digestion and stabilize blood sugar levels. When you are adding carbohydrates, opt for smaller portions of whole grains like quinoa, brown rice, or whole wheat pasta. Or you could choose legumes like lentils or chickpeas. For instance, a piece of grilled chicken with a large serving of steamed vegetables and a small portion of quinoa is a much more blood sugar-friendly meal than that same chicken served with a large pile of French fries or white rice. Thoughtful pairing is absolutely essential. Number 5, neglecting plant-based protein alternatives. And for our fifth habit, we're looking at neglecting plant-based protein alternatives. While meat can certainly be a source of important nutrients, consistently relying on it as your sole or primary protein source, especially when it comes to red and processed meats, can mean you're missing an opportunity for better blood sugar management. Incorporating more plant-based protein alternatives into your diet is a powerful strategy, and research is increasingly backing this up for diabetes prevention and control. Some remarkable findings from research really highlight the benefits of making such dietary shifts. For example, studies have indicated that replacing just one daily serving of red meat with nuts or legumes, think beans, lentils, or chickpeas, is associated with up to a 30% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. This suggests a pretty significant protective effect from these plant-powered foods. Similarly, the same research has shown that substituting red meat with dairy products, particularly yogurt, is linked to a 22% lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Now, while dairy isn't plant-based, this finding further emphasizes the advantages of diversifying your protein sources away from a heavy reliance on red meat. Plant-based proteins offer a whole wealth of benefits beyond just reducing diabetes risk. They are typically much lower in saturated fat compared to many animal meats, especially red meat. They're also excellent sources of dietary fiber, which is crucial for slowing glucose absorption, promoting a feeling of fullness, and supporting digestive health, all of which are beneficial for blood sugar control. On top of that, they provide an array of essential vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that contribute to your overall well-being. Integrating these alternatives into your meals can be both delicious and quite straightforward. You could start by designating 1 or 2 days a week as meatless, or perhaps try substituting plant proteins in dishes you already enjoy. For example, you could use lentils instead of ground meat in bolognese sauce or chili. Add chickpeas or black beans to your salads and soups, snack on a handful of unsalted nuts, or try tofu or tempeh in stir-fries. The good news is you don't have to eliminate meat entirely to reap the benefits. The goal is simply to create a more balanced protein intake by consciously including more plant-based options. Even small, consistent changes can add up over time, contributing positively to your blood sugar management and your overall health. How to build a blood sugar-friendly meat plan. So, how can you build a blood sugar-friendly meat plan? Well, incorporating meat into your diet while effectively managing diabetes is certainly achievable with a thoughtful and informed approach. For many, it's not about complete restriction, but rather about making smart choices regarding the type, quantity, and frequency of meat consumption, alongside how it fits into your overall eating pattern. A real cornerstone of a blood sugar-friendly meat plan is portion control. This is especially true when it comes to red meat. Many health experts and dietary guidelines, informed by research that links high intake to an increased diabetes risk, suggest limiting red meat consumption to about 1 serving. That's around 3-4 ounces cooked per week. Generally, being mindful of serving sizes for all meats is beneficial. It's also important to prioritize selecting leaner cuts of meat and poultry. If you're choosing beef, look for cuts like sirloin, tenderloin, or lean ground beef. For pork, opt for loin chops or tenderloin. And with poultry, skinless chicken, or turkey breast is an excellent lean choice. Trimming any visible fat before you cook can further reduce your saturated fat intake, which is beneficial for insulin sensitivity. Finally, aim for balance by diversifying your protein sources throughout the week. Don't let meat dominate every single meal. Make sure to include plenty of fish, especially fatty fish, rich in omega-3s like salmon, alongside those plant-based proteins such as beans, lentils, tofu, and nuts. This kind of balanced approach ensures you get a wider range of nutrients and helps moderate the potential downsides of eating too much meat. To wrap things up, being mindful of your meat consumption habits can really make a significant impact on your blood sugar management. By limiting red meat, avoiding those processed options, using gentle cooking methods, choosing smart side dishes, and embracing plant-based alternatives, you can definitely enjoy meat while actively supporting stable glucose levels and your overall well-being. So, did you find these tips helpful? If so, please feel free to share this with others who might benefit. We genuinely love to hear what you think or any questions you might have, so please leave them in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for even more expert advice on managing diabetes and boosting your health.